Andy, thanks very much for joining us. Pi Labs, obviously, you're looking at a lot of the key kind of trends, particularly coming into the Proptech world. I suppose, what are you seeing at the moment? We're now kind of 8-9 months into the crisis. What are you seeing as some of the key kind of factors being driven by that?
Yeah, I think it comes as no shock to anyone that retail and office have gone into a bit of a crisis with the lockdown. We recently commissioned some work called the COVID-19 Real Estate's Great Reset. And that looks at how Proptech investments actually been counter-cyclical to previous recessions. And we're certainly seeing evidence of that in our portfolio. Within the office, I'll start there. Landlords are having to now adopt technology to safely reopen their buildings and begin collecting rent or continue to collect rents. And tenants are having to adopt smart building technology to safely bring their employees back to work. Previously, these technologies faced a few barriers to adoption, largely based around return on investment. So there was no real proof that a landlord could charge more rent for smart building. There was no real proof that tenants would actually have the return on investment would fall inside their lease term, thus making it financially viable for them. But suddenly the financial incentives have all aligned and smart building technology demand has gone completely through the roof. Our portfolio companies on 720 Degrees, Demand Logic, and the Office app are three really targeting this, and the statistic coming out of them really back that up. Within retail, I think the retail is slightly different. The office trend was slowly moving towards a bit more smart building, co-working, flexible leasing, but retail was certainly struggling prior to COVID. And what COVID's done is just accelerate the trends we were seeing before. The value of a retail store no longer sits in how many goods it can sell over the counter. The value of a retail store is in the brand activation the retailer gets. So how many people walk past the store, interact with their goods, and then go and either purchase them online or follow their social media account, or perhaps click and collect through a third-party retailer. Where landlords are now having to move towards turnover-based rents, as has been kind of forced by the pandemic. We've seen L&G do it quite famously across their portfolio. Simply basing the turnover on store turnover is no longer sufficient. You need to actually be indexing your rents now on these new digital first indicators of retail store success. So we're really interested in technologies, as we were with smart building, that can kind of measure how people are using buildings and how the operational side of buildings. We're really interested in technologies that can really understand how people are interacting with real estate, so that they can take the data about the customer, and actually where it currently sits with retailers, and that's causing a big problem for how we set leases, taking that data about the customer and giving it straight to the landlords.
When we're looking at the real estate sector, Andy, what are the big challenges that you're seeing and that you're looking for solutions to? Because that will obviously, be an interesting Proptech investment for you, but may also indicate where we're heading in terms of the industry.
The biggest challenge that a lot of people are discussing is the retrofit problem currently. So by 2050, all existing buildings have to meet net zero carbon standards. But everyone states that 70% of that building stock that will be in use by 2050 has already been built, and most of it not to an energy efficient standard, not to a smart standard. So there's a lot of technology that can plug into the posh shiny new buildings to optimize their energy efficiency. But I think the real challenge, and if a company can answer this challenge, please get in contact. The real challenge is understanding what technology there is that you can put into dumb buildings. So buildings that just have manual light switches, a thermostat you dial up and down with your hand, and no real kind of technology involved. Because that's going to be the biggest challenge, both socially, environmentally, and regulatory, going forward. And I'm sure returns will reflect that in the market as we get closer and closer towards this net zero 2050 target.
Really interesting to get your perspective on things. Thanks very much for joining us, Andy.